All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to this week's Stock Market Outlook video brought to you by the Trade Lab. As always, we're going to run through the market indexes, leading stocks, and discuss what to expect next week. As I mentioned, this is brought to you by the Trade Lab, which is my daily newsletter where I present a comprehensive report that's quick and easy to read, discussing the day's action, the market leadership, how they're acting, and also my focus list for the upcoming trading day. So you don't want to miss that. You can check out the link down below to learn more. And also included with that is additional resources and evergreen material on trading concepts and much, much more. So definitely check that out. And you can check out the weekend sample report down in the description as well. All right, so with that said, let's dive into last week's action. There's a lot to talk about. We started off with some volatility with a gap down. We mentioned at the end of last week, of course, we had a negative expectation breaker. We attempted to break out of this consolidation that's really been going on for about 5-6 weeks now. We had a negative expectation breaker where we basically, instead of falling through on this bar, gap down and close below this key level. And we basically started off this past week with what we expected further downside. However, basically the bulls stepped in, the institution stepped in off the 50 SMA, and we closed strongly and started a short-term move to the upside. This was a very promising day. Many names in, individual names as well looked very similar to this. Fall through to the upside here on Wednesday and had a tight close overall. So I view this as a consolidation day, expecting expansion. We are also right near this key level, another reason to expect a volatile move. And we got that strong barge to the upside. And on Friday, we gapped up, shook lower. But then what was key is we had a nice, decent close here off the lows. And even though it was technically a downside reversal, we closed above the prior day close and well off low. So I viewed this as a positive day. We've been up about 4 days in a row now. So I'd love to see some consolidation sideways, some constructive range building here back into the 21 EMA, back into this key level if we go ahead and extend that out. And then ideally a continuation of this trend and finally a move up from this consolidation. But again, just taking a look at the bigger picture, we obviously had the big market correction here in April. Strong trend since then. It got choppier in this area. We had a few flushes lower where we haven't been able to fully roll over, but some sharp drops nonetheless. And really, as I mentioned, we've been consolidating within this overall consolidation for the past 5-6 weeks. So it's getting time to potentially start another leg higher. And we'll have to wait and see what happens and what actually, occurs next week. If we do reverse lower back below this level, below the 21 EMA with maybe a negative bar to the downside, that would be, again, breaking expectations. But for now, the short-term trend is up. We're trending above the moving averages and the expectation is range building sideways or continuation up. And finally, hopefully a push above, this level as well as eventually this previous all-time high. Looking at the IWM, this has looked a little bit stronger compared to the QQQ. You can see this is the overall range, and we're actually already trending out of it with this bar really setting the tone. And right now we're just trending above the 10 EMA, a little bit of an indecisive bar here on this past Friday, but overall a decent close off lows and just trending and doing nothing wrong. And again, some consolidation down here, and then reconfirmation to the upside would be, constructive price and volume action. Taking a look at IBIT, this has been pulling in here and is actually forming, a longer base here right near this key level. And we haven't managed to push the downside. We just kind of been range building here, but we have to see it push through the moving averages here, push through the 21 EMA, push through the 50 SMA, and start a move up the right-hand side of this base. And that could start the next move higher, but we have to get above those key levels. And so far we've failed to do so. So this overall has been relatively weak relative to most stocks, relative to the QQQ, and definitely IWM. Taking a look at the leaders, let's take a look at Tesla here. This is probably the most talked about chart on Twitter the past few days. We're in this constructive basing pattern, which is more like, almost a secondary bottoming base. This is the true bottoming base where we change the momentum from to the downside back to the upside. But we've really been consolidating since the end of May here. And let's see how many days that is. About 70 days, so quite an extensive period of time, forming higher lows here. And we're not tight yet, but we're showing those that classic VCP type structure. And what's left is to see us really push out from this base. Now here on the previous week, we had a large negative bar to the downside on Friday. We held this day with a tight close relative to the open, and that was the first kind of clue that the short-term downside momentum potentially was over. And sure enough, the next day we pushed higher, another inside day, and then we had the gap here on this Friday. So ideally, we push higher from this bar or consolidate and form finally a tight area. There hasn't really been a tight area within the space. So we'll have to see what happens. But overall, has the potential, has, the history that could lead to a major trend. So this will be on my focus list going into next week for a potential entry on a breakout through this level. But ideally first, a consolidation, a nice range that forms here, maybe an upside reversal within that range where you could start a position and then add on the actual breakout. But that's what I'm looking for with Tesla, but definitely a name to have on your radar, because when this goes, this can make you quite a nice performance in your portfolio in just a short amount of time. But right now we're just range building for the time being. So definitely want to have on your radar and potentially actionable for next week. Google trending beautifully here, a little bit short-term extended. We had a nice gap up here, but nothing much to do here, just in a strong uptrend. Meta consolidating more and pulling into this prior level. I love the action here. Let me change the scaling here. Gap up, and then this was a very constructive day where we didn't give much back. We just formed a nice tight day consolidation, so we can actually draw a little bit of a range high here and watching for expansion higher. Maybe we get one more tight inside day, maybe an upside reversal that would really prime things, and then looking for resolutions to upside. But overall, from the longer term chart pattern, we've been consolidating really since February of 2025. We pushed above it, now pulling back into that area and potentially forming a little bit of a high handle, which ideally we push out of using the short-term pattern. So that is Meta. Apple, again, part of a bigger base here, moving up the right-hand side, above the moving averages, trending above the 10 and 21 EMA. Nothing much to do, a little bit short-term extended, and could use a little bit of a pull-in to that 10 EMA and let the 21 EMA also catch up to price, but like seeing it above the 200-day moving average and, of course, the 50-day as well, and it's trending above all those moving averages for the time being. Amazon, also, basically forming a consolidation right near the previous key high here, and had a nice gap up and hold. You did have a negative close here on this Friday, but still overall consolidation day, and ideally it's sets up a little bit more of a range and then breaks out of this intermediate term base and continues to trend above those moving averages. Microsoft has been relatively weak since this reversal down off the earnings gap up. And sure enough, here on Friday, we failed at those moving averages. So, not a name I would be focusing on at all. But we'll see if this falls through to the downside, or this ends up being, the short-term downside momentum that finally puts in an intermediate-term base bottom, and we recover and start to, set up below the moving averages and ultimately pop through. But for now, nothing much doing here with Microsoft unless you like these type of reversal plays. But not something I'm focused on here. NVIDIA, obviously we had earnings here. We resolved down. We formed a range here right at the 50 SMA, and then gap down with an upside reversal type bar here on this past Friday. Direction a little bit undetermined. We could easily, resume and reclaim these key levels here, and that would be constructive. But for the time being, we're trending below declining 21 EMA. So, AMD looks set up, NVIDIA looks set up. AVGO, I think had a gap up, but this name in the short term at least is below those moving averages and needs to firm up here. And I want to see it pop back through those moving averages and then a move up towards this previous high as well. Tight area up the right hand side. That's my bread and butter. That's what I'm looking for. Let's take a look at a few more names here. Let's take a look at first Palantir. Let's bring that up. This, of course, a leader since the April bottom, but still looks to me like it's forming more of a left side of a base, potentially the middle of a base now. We've got this range. We've refused to really push lower from this range, but in the same vein, we haven't been able to push above, this level as well as the 21 EMA. So we need to see that happen. And you've got a little bit of a shakeout here on Friday, so that could start some upward momentum. So we could see some volatility and pop through that 21 EMA. That's what I would be looking for. But really, I'm waiting for this to form up a little bit more of a base before that happens. Let's bring up ALAB. This is the name I've really been focused on. Really nice opportunity and spot here after this inside day, break higher, and constructive day here on Friday. This is what you want to see on a day where a lot of things shake out. A nice, good close, relatively high in the bar's range, and basically watching for either it to continue to push out this consolidation, or a constructive range sideways and then a reconfirmation. That would be ideal. Entering on this day, stop at lows, acting well so far. You'd be able to move your stop up to break even already, and looking for that reconfirmation to the upside. I love these tight ranges inside days right near the 21 EMA. If I could only trade one setup, that would probably be it. Bringing up Reddit. This was another name with a tight range, or tightish range near 21 EMA. You had a little bit of a squat here, volatility. Whenever this happens near a range, I don't take it off my watch list, and often I put it back on my watch list for the next day, because if you're right near the range, it's a stock that's shown power, shown momentum. Basically, this type of day can happen, and the next day it goes. And that's exactly what happened. We had a nice push higher and some fall through to the upside here on Friday. So again, watching for either a move higher towards these highs, or constructive range building back into the 10 EMA, and then reconfirmation back up to the upside. But definitely Reddit name to have on your radar. I like where it's at within the longer term context as well. You've got this bigger base, and this is kind of like a high handle of this larger pattern, and you've got everything going for it. You've got triple digit earnings, a nice EPS surprise, revenue growth is superb. Everything going for it, and definitely a name, to either own or be high up on your focus list. Let's bring up Hood as well. This was added to the S&P 500 here on this past Friday. Let's bring up the intraday chart here, and let's bring up the extended hours. So right now we're about 107. Right here, so popping here, so this could be actionable very early next week, and we'll see if we get a gap and go, or gap and hold, tight day and then go. Either scenario, I'm ready. This is a catalyst that has started nice moves. The inclusion to the S&P 500, doesn't technically mean much, but it could just kind of bring Hood back into the fore and back on people's radars. And this is a name that, of course, led since the April lows, has been fantastic. I've had some nice trades in it. And now it's potentially, it's been consolidating for 6-7 weeks or so since, the middle of July, and potentially is finally ready to challenge these highs. So again, like ALAB, like Reddit, a name that's more actionable and potentially should be your focus early next week. And also, that being said, let me know what names are kind of your top focus down below. Don't listen to me, focus on your own process, your own work, but let me know in the comments, maybe 1 to 3 names that you're really focused on for early next week. But that's pretty much, I think, all the names I want to show. Let's go ahead and, I did also want to do AEO, American Eagle. This, of course, has had some catalysts here, some news. Really strong earnings move, and you can see a nice surprise of 114%. I love being able to hover over this quickly here in deep view, and revenue also a slight beat, but overall not much growth there, but very strong earnings gap, the highest volume in quite some time. And then we had a nice consolidation day here. So watching for reconfirmation to the upside here. This has a lot of momentum. If this goes, this could trend for quite some time, and maybe be more of a turnaround play, and hopefully start to trend near those previous highs. One other name I did want to bring up was Wayfair. Let me bring that up. There we go. This had a nice range breakout here this past week. If we take a look at this, again, a range near the 21 EMA. I love this. RMV going close to 0. Tight day. You've got the range high right here. And I love when we get a shake below a range, reclaim, and then that starts the momentum move. And I think from this pivot, we're up about 17%. If we take a look at the 65 65 time frame, again, you've got, and let me draw the range low here as well. You've got a shake below the prior day low, reclaim of that, reclaim of this intermediate term pivot, and then this high here, and it just goes and stair steps beautifully. This is what you want to see on a range breakout. Great follow through as well. Short-term extended for the time being, but it's a name that doubled, I believe, since this April low, and then set up that range on the 21 EMA and set up a nice swing trade opportunity last week. So just want to highlight this potential opportunity, and definitely a name we're studying, or setup we're studying. I love this, range near the 21 EMA. I love how you had a little bit of a tell. You had a gap down and hold, and then it refuses to go lower. That's a key sign that momentum in the short term might be flipping, and to be watching for a setup or entry tactic to the upside. So definitely want to mention that name as well. But that's pretty much it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on the market. Overall, if we bring up the QQQ, my current view is, of course, we've had a strong trend since this April bottom, but we've pretty much been kind of in a stealth correction, choppiness, choppy market, whatever you want to call it, since the end of July, which is a decent amount of time. It's enough time to see bases kind of form, see more stuff set up. You've seen the bases in Hood, Palantir start to form. So we'll see if we can finally push out this consolidation and continue to trend. But right now, the market refuses to go lower when we test everybody's temperaments. And we'll see if we can fall through to the upside next week. We're short term up 4 days pretty much in a row. So some consolidation, some range building would be warranted, and actually would set up some amazing pivots and mature a lot of charts out there. So my view is we're in a potential start of a new developing uptrend from this base consolidation. It's been choppy. I've had my share of stops in this area when I've tried things, but things finally stuck last week. So we'll see what happens, and see if we can get a new nice trend going on into September, which historically is a weaker month. But remember, every year is its own thing. Just because a stock is seasonally weak in X month, or even the whole market is seasonally weak in X month, doesn't mean there can't be outliers or just a year that's a little bit different. So we'll have to see what happens, play everything by its own merit, analyze price and volume action, manage risk, take shots at high potential names. That's all we can do. So thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, again, it'd be amazing if you went ahead and left a like, and also comment down below just for the algorithm. What are a few of the names that you're watching for next week, or what are your thoughts on the market? So thanks again for tuning in. Hope to see you guys here tomorrow for my weekly watch list video, talking more about opportunities going into next week. And so I hope to see you guys there. And thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.